Next up, we have Hibiscus and Bays. We have two local board inputs. First up, we'll have Alexis Poppelbaum from the Hibiscus Bays local board. Thank you very much. And we have Julia Parfitt online. Alexis will be doing the presentation, but if there's a question that Julia might need to answer, she's there, but she's listening in.
Great, thanks. Good morning. I'm Alexis Poppelbaum from the Hibiscus and Bays local board. Thank you, Mayor, Chairperson, Councillors, Māori Statutory Board for allowing us to speak today to our submission that we gave back in October. You'll note in attachment B that all four North Shore local boards wrote very extensive feedback, and for that we apologise for that dense reading. You can see that the Resource Recovery Network is something that we're deeply passionate about and that we're very eager to see the success of. Given that the adoption of the strategy is on your agenda today, I thought it would be wise, with the time that I've got, just to focus just on a couple of little things to talk to you about today. In our October feedback, we expressed concern that the strategy refresh focused on the delivery of a fixed number of centres and parks rather than targeting funding to recover a quantity of resources from the waste stream. And as such, we didn't feel that the location of facilities, which is key to the success of the strategy, was highlighted sufficiently. We believe that the location of facilities in areas where they will achieve the most in terms of reduction of waste to landfill is key. And it's not a particular type or function of building that is required to do this, but rather an overall network made up of different types and functions of buildings depending on the waste profile of that area. Some of the feedback from ourselves and from the other local boards, northern local boards, was that we support a fit-for-purpose strategy for a sub-regional part of the resource recovery network in the north, with the ultimate aim of diverting as much waste as possible to recovered resource. And that's for a few reasons. There is a massive potential to achieve a significant reduction of waste to landfill in the north. And we may also be a very important central location for construction and demolition waste, given the significant developments that are happening in and around our area. We're also likely to have a high value of recoverable materials, which is incredibly important for a facility or facilities to be financially viable and economically successful. We currently have very limited access to the resource recovery network. The closest facilities to us are Devonport and Whangaparoa, and whilst one of them is in the North Shore, for those of you who live in Devonport, it's a difficult area to get to. And it's over 30 minutes without traffic. We also have available sites for investigation that are either council or owned by CCOs, and my colleague from Upper Harbour, Anna Atkinson, who will be talking next, has done a lot of proactive work in this area and identifying some really fantastic central locations. We also have established and experienced community organisations who are prepared and ready to go in supporting this. Our residents across the area are also highly engaged. For the East Coast Bays, we have the highest amount of environmental groups and volunteers across the region, and I would say that that's probably mirrored across Upper Harbour and Kaipātiki as well. So our residents are engaged, and I think the opportunity to participate in a facility or facilities would be greatly taken up. At this point, I just want to pass over to Julia Parfitt, who's online, who may or may not have something that she wanted to add. Julia? We'll see if she comes online in a moment. But I just wanted to summarise by saying that, again, thank you very much for the opportunity. We are incredibly eager to see the success of this strategy, and I know that the local boards, through that feedback that you would have seen in attachment B, are very eager to see the success of the strategy going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexis. And we can't hear Julia at the moment, but I'm sure she'll let us know if she would like to add anything. Are there any questions for Alexis? Member Wilson.
Kia ora, Alexis. Great presentation. We're having a good day today. I share similar views in terms of the use of those. So it was interesting how you stepped out point-wise as to why you would seek additional, normally a question around receiving additional resource garners, well, we haven't got one in ours. So I was really appreciative of your presentation in the sense you stepped out. The high value thing also worries me, and where they put resource recycling centres as well. So they are effective, and you've even got some indication of the fact you understand that your community are the ones that are utilising that facility, and the community are the ones that wish to utilise it. So you've already got a network up already. My one question that I would like to pose to you, have you had an opportunity to canvass the Māori component of your community to get a viewpoint from them as to what they think and the use thereof?
No, we haven't yet, very early stages, but I'm really glad that you asked that question, because that's incredibly important and definitely on the agenda to do across all the northern local boards. I see working quite collaboratively towards this being in a central location, so that would definitely be on the things to do.
Great to see that there is that strength of community cooperation, collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just wanted, Alexis, to follow up on your comment about the established community organisations that exist in the area, and how productive it is to leverage off the expertise and energy that goes with them. So I think of the Whangapraoa one, where you have an old site that's just a scrap of land, really. You now have a container, and it's largely driven by these groups who bring not only expertise, but they bring access to funding. So essentially, what is it about these kind of community organisations that actually aid council and actually enable council to take a real back seat, and they do everything if a site can be found?
Thank you for the question. There's two community organisations that we are just aware of. I'm certain there might be more, and one of them that I can speak to that you'll be familiar with, Councillor, is Hibiscus Coast Zero Waste, who very successfully run the Whangaparoa Centre, and they have huge operations, and they're doing incredible things with massive volunteers across the region, reconditioning soil out west with scrap waste that they are collecting through a small operation which is growing. They're also very well connected within our schools and our businesses in waste collection, and that's something that our board has funded for a very long time and will continue to do so in the future. So they're very well established, have been around a very long time, and have an incredible amount of support as well.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Councillor Walker.
So I'm just picking up on the point that you're making, that conceivably there could be more than the number that they're suggesting, or there could be some variation. And I'd put to you that in a situation where there's an area of land, and I'm thinking of a particular area of land which is the old Rosedale landfill, that can't be used for anything much else, but could make an excellent site for a resource recovery network, a community garden. And I've visited sites just like this overseas in Melbourne and other cities, for example, where they convert disused landfills to a community purpose, because you can't do anything else with it. In that kind of circumstance, why wouldn't you have one there, even if it is over and above this list, if it could be brought in far more economically than possibly anywhere else in the region?
I'm glad that you brought up the Rosedale landfill, and that was one of the few sites that my colleague Anna, who will be speaking after me, and her colleague Nick from Upper Harbour have been identifying sites that are along that motorway and very central to that northern region. And the Rosedale landfill was one of them. I understand from them that there is a section of that area that was never used for landfill that has very mature pine trees on it that could be perfect for a facility. There may be things that need to be considered, such as types of structures on that, but certainly we see that as a really fantastic opportunity to be investigated.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. And thank you, Alexis. We'll have the report if you can or can't stay. That's up to you, but we'll make sure the feedback comes back to you from Parul and the team. I know that in the report it does say the location of facilities will be decided based on local board feedback, based on available sites and all the sort of information you're giving us. So I know that there isn't, it's not locked in, and I assume there will be locations, spread as equally as possible across Tamaki Makaurau. I know that when I was on the Kaipātiki local board, we were of the same mind at the time that, we would have preferred a more central location, but the Devonport site was available and it was just about, and they're doing amazing work, but granted, the access to that site is not easy for everyone on the shore. So definitely can agree with you there. So we will ensure that information comes back. There won't be a rush to choose sites. It is a process. We are going through the funding, apportioning funding through the 10-year budget as we go, plus the government's waste levy portion for Auckland. So the funding is there, but yep, I'm happy to push for making sure those local views are taken up. So if Watson and Walker, Councillor Watson and Walker, would you like to move Councillor Watson and second Councillor Walker? Thank you very much. All those in favour? Those against? No? Perfect. Thank you. And next up we have Anna Atkinson from the Upper Harbour Local Board to talk on the same topic. Thank you very much. I'll just pop on the microphone at the front.
The talk button. Good morning, I'm Anna Atkinson from the Upper Harbour Local Board. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk. Thank you, Chairperson, Mayor and Māori statutory members. I won't belabour too many points. Our submission sort of echoes East Coast Bays, the Hibiscus and Bays. We all believe we need a recycling centre in our area. You'll be asked today to vote on a proposal that includes a proposal to create a network of 9 community recycling centres and 2 resource recovery parks. We did have one of the very long submissions in the Appendix B, and once again I apologise for that, but I really want to emphasise 3 key points from our submission. Firstly, Upper Harbour Local Board wholeheartedly agrees with the proposal to increase the network of recycling centres and resource recovery parks. But secondly, point 2, we're not convinced that the proposed strategy has settled on the right number and mix of centres. But thirdly, and most importantly, is we want to emphasise that Upper Harbour, we want and we need and we have the space for a community recycling centre within the central North Shore. Okay, we all know the time's right for this. We've got the climate emergency, we've got the waste minimisation plan, we've got carbon imperatives, and people just want to play a part of a sustainable lifestyle. We've got to help them do that. In fact, one of our local board objectives in our recently adopted plan was around minimising waste and allowing a circular economy. So if we got one, tick, one objective done. But it's really important. So therefore, we support the Resource Recovery Centre refresh, including the intent to build more recycling centres. But the goal's got to be around diverting waste, and high value waste obviously is more economically profitable than just the number of centres. My second point was on the mix and number of centres. As Alexis has alluded to, we believe that we can have a variety of centres. There's plenty of places on the North Shore with hugely high growth at the moment. I'm thinking Whenuapai, Scott Point, Hobsonville. We're actually funding demolition and waste leaders to go in and talk to people about demolition waste. We all know how big an issue construction waste is. We believe that maybe a strategy of some drop-off points near there where the waste is then collected and brought to a bigger site, that could work. We don't need to have a big drop-off and collection resource recovery centre everywhere. And then as these areas grow and you don't need such an area, that those few containers can be moved off. We need something flexible. The third issue I mentioned was distance. As Alexis said, our 2 closest are the Hibiscus and Whangaparoa Peninsula and Devonport. It's over a 30-minute drive in each direction. None of my friends know that they exist or would go there. We just wouldn't. So if we want to enable people to recycle, we've got to have one a bit closer. Hibiscus and Bays, Upper Harbour and Kaupatiki, big growth areas with high value waste, and obviously just shipping waste across to landfills isn't very good. So within the northern boards, all 4 boards wish to see something in our area. We're going to work together. We've got a number of sites with investigation. Councillor Watson mentioned Rosedale, that's obviously one of them, but there are plenty more. We had a brain dump and we came up with about 5 or 6 sites that are owned by either council or the CCOs that could work and have good access. So what we really want is to be involved in the investigation of the sites. As well as community partners, there's the Hibiscus Coast Zero Waste. I've had yesterday the Kaupatiki project reached out to me and said they would like to be involved. Business North Harbour have reached out and said they'd like to be involved. So we've got businesses, we've got community projects, we've got partners, and as Alexis said, many members of our community are involved in restoration, ecological activities. So with all of this, plus the support of boards and of the council, we really think that something in the upper North Shore is really sensible. People really love the area they live, and it would give them yet another reason to really love this area. Thanks for listening to me today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. And please never apologise for giving us fulsome submissions and feedback, because we really do enjoy it. And we enjoy it. Say that the staff do take on all the feedback, and it's very important. These recycling centres and resource recovery parks are only going to work with local board support and community buy-in. So I think there is a sweet spot between ensuring there's enough locations that it's not too far for people to get to, and also using resources wisely. As you say, we could do a hub and spoke type drop-off model and things, but yeah, really keen for all the feedback we can get on that. Councillor Watson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Probably about 25, 30 years ago, there was a slogan, Albany, the new centre of the shore, and everyone used to laugh at it, because at that stage, Albany was orchards and, kind of a trip out from people from the lower part of the shore. Now it is the centre of the shore. It's a little bit like other parts of Auckland, where the whole dynamics of growth has changed. So in terms of people wanting to play a part in a sustainable economy, and the link into this committee, the Climate Change Committee, how does those various components around a location like this old tip at Rosedale that can't be used, how does that meet the kind of desire of large numbers of people in these communities to actually help us with our climate change goals, and do that in a venue that is so convenient for a real big circle of virtually everyone north of the bridge?
Thank you, Councillor. You've almost answered the question. There's many community groups that have expressed willingness to be involved. Hibiscus Zero Waste have expressed willingness. Kaupatiki Project have expressed willingness. And people want to be able to to recycle sustainably. But driving to Devonport and Whangaparoa is just not cutting it. The site, as Alexa said, not all of the sites, my understanding, was actually used for landfill. So while there is an issue with methane at part of it, we're still waiting for officer advice on that. There is a big part of it that was never used. So there's no reason why we don't see we could put some containers on there and start a process with a hub and spoke model. There's also other options within the areas. There's one at the top of Albany Highway, there's ones on Houghton Reserve. There's lots of areas that we would like to be discussed, but Rosedale is completely the obvious one. And it would enable people to be involved.
Sorry, just a very quick follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This committee is very conscious about cost, as everyone hopefully is aware going into this budget. You mentioned a couple of old containers. What does that mean? Because that doesn't seem like a very big cost to get things going. Is that exactly what's happening in Whangaparoa?
Whangaparoa, yeah, it is done on the smell of an oily rag by a community organisation. They don't need to be overblown. What I would like to see is even start small. Start with a small vision on the side of the land. As the land is made safe, methane is reduced, then have the plan to expand. We don't need to go big right from the beginning, as long as we work with not only community, but there are recyclable businesses that would want to be involved. It can be done relatively cheaply. And Rosedale Road doesn't have residents around, doesn't have the businesses that are going to complain if you put up too many containers.
Good, thank you. We'll have these three last questions if possible. Councillor Stewart.
Oh, I'm over here.
Oh, sorry.
So thank you for your presentation. Just really, really interested with what you're doing up there, but I'm sure maybe you could help some of the other local boards out east and out south. I think we really need something out our way. We really do. There are some community groups that are doing some things out our way, but I think we desperately need something because a lot of stuff that gets illegally dumped is stuff that could really be quite useful and yeah. So,
Yes,
have you been working with any of the other local board members from other?
But we've only worked with the northern board areas. So I've been in touch with colleagues from Kaupatiki, Devonport, Hibiscus and Bays and Upper Harbour. But the strategy as proposed has 9 community recycling centres. So I certainly would hope that if you need one out east that you did get one. We just want to make sure that they're close to all people and because the goal is to reduce waste. So if you look at where they are at the moment, they're in peninsulas and they're on islands and they're on the outskirts of Auckland. I think we really need to bite the bullet and put them where people live and people can access it.
Yes, I've just I've just been nudged with a question. Would you be happy to talk with at the local board forum, the local board chairs forum?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
When is that?
So
Yeah.
do we have some date? Could we come back to you on
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Spread the love. Spread the love.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks, Anna and Alexis, for your presentation, for your advocacy and your enthusiasm. And I think, when we haven't decided whether we're going to double the number of recovery centres, which is the really good news. I don't think the decision has been made yet where they may be. And I take on board where you've got a group of enthusiastic people and you've got a site, they're big advantages. But I just wanted to point out really that the word network is really important. And at the moment, to cover the whole of the isthmus and the south, there's one site. It's at Waiuku, which is at the far south. So what we'll be trying to do, not ignoring your advocacy, certainly taking on board that, but we will want to get a network so that we cover the whole region. Because at the moment, I think if you include the Gulf Islands, 7 of the 9 existing centres are north of the city centre. So so we balance out the discussion today that we really do need to have that network across the region. And to pick up, I think it was Sharon's point, we'll be looking at existing resource recovery centres to provide their expertise and their skill to help develop that network around the whole region. So thank you very much for your presentation, both of you.
Thank you, Mayor Goff. Member Wilcox.
Just a query, have you been working with any whānau from the marae or mana whenua in this respect to kind of get an idea of what they might be seeking?
As Alexis said, not yet. Our board does have a relationship agreement with mana whenua, but we haven't discussed this yet because it was our submission to a proposal to have 9 additional community recycling centres. But if it did come as far as potential looking at sites, we would absolutely certainly want to discuss with the mana whenua.
So when mana whenua kind of make a submission, what happens then? You take that into account, do you?
No, we're trying to develop a governance relationship with the local mana whenua up. I think there's 4 groups that we're in discussion with up in the Upper Harbour. So we're trying to develop governance relationships, and when we do discuss things like this with them, we just haven't discussed this particular recycling initiative with them.
Okay, couple.
Kia ora, thank you. Councillor Walker, last question. Is it
Again, I just want to pick up on that Rosedale side and just wonder if you could confirm a few things, that there is access that it's incredibly well located in terms of arguably the wider North Shore and Hibiscus Coast area, that it would have sufficient size to be a resource recovery park, not just a recycling centre.
Yes, my understanding is affirmative to all of those. It's an incredibly well located site on a main road away from residential and businesses. It's accessible from Hibiscus and Bays and Albany, and especially if it was part of a hub and spoke system, you could really have a really broad reach into a lot of growth areas targeting construction and demolition waste.
And just a follow-on question, my understanding is it wouldn't have any consenting issues, or very few, because of its historical use.
You'd need to speak to an expert. I'm sorry, I don't know about that.
Cool. Thank you, Councillor Walker. And last from Member Wilson.
Thank you. Again, a great presentation, and envious of the networks that you have and the cooperation. My one question is, I would have assumed it would be a stronger submission if the views that were sought aren't local board there, mana whenua here. So there are mana whenua clearly within the local boards. It'd be really good to see not only are you speaking on behalf of your wider community, it's inclusive of mana whenua, so there's not a separate. I'd like to understand what the needs are and what the views are of mana whenua in terms of any of those centres within your local board area. So in the future moving forward, it'd be really good to understand what that means for a local board from a mana whenua perspective, which is notoriously hard to gauge, as you're probably well aware. So for the next time, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Member Wilson. And yeah, thank you for, this is a lot of food for thought, and we will definitely be taking on all that feedback. It's important to note that when we are talking about innovative ideas like containers and different things, that in our current resource recovery network, there are 80 people working full-time, that health and safety is paramount, that they obviously need facilities if they're working there all day, that we can't just plonk things on a site. So it is about how can we make sure we have those innovative, maybe more affordable approaches, but making sure we have good facilities where people are wanting to work and are safe to work and things like that. So we'll just have I assume, mover. Councillor Walker, did you want to move this time? Councillor Watson, second. All those in favour? Thank you very much, Anna.